a wild mongrel. It's a wild choice.
It is a very, very wild choice. I really can't figure it out. I'll be honest.
Well, hopefully Seth will show us exactly what the wild mongrels are doing in his deck as he is on the play.
Yeah, Seth the master, first of all. Seth with 2 Grand Prix wins. I top-8'd yesterday, so he's looking to go back-to-back here. He's obviously off to a very, very nice start, 6-1 moving into round number 8.
He also has a world's top 16.
Yeah. He wins a lot.
Yes,
yeah.
Very good Magic player. That a lot of people, I know I hadn't heard of him until he won his 2nd Grand Prix.
Oh, really?
He had such space in between his Grand Prix.
Yeah, he took like a little break or whatever to finish school and, do that sort of thing. But, yeah, I've known the man-child for a while. Turn over Force of Will, flip over the Delver.
Yeah. And so Matthew is going to lead off with his Nimble Mongoose. Both players have tropical islands that haven't used fetch lands yet, typically which belies the fact that they want to save their fetch lands for later brainstorms.
Yeah, brainstorms or ponders. Both of those are fine. But you want to get a threat on the table to get the show started. And now Seth's going to play a Wasteland too and start by attacking. So he's off to a really nice start.
Yep, very good start for Rug Delver. Insectile Aberration into the red zone. 3 damage, draws first blood in the match. And Wasteland's going to take out Matthew's Trop.
I like Wastelanding here to try to take out the Trop, mostly because now Daze is off so he can resolve a threat. And that's no Mongoose.
Ah, I see. I see what we've done. So Seth Manfield does have Nimble Mongoose.
Yep.
We are, however, going to alert the judges to the deck list error.
We sure are. We sure are.
So Wild Mongrel is not in Seth the Manimal Manfield's deck. So we will not learn why those are in there at the current time. So anyway, as the game proceeds, Matthew's deciding how he wants to go on. He's not really pleased with any of his options going forward. Looks like he's just going to use the Wasteland to deprive Seth of his Trop as well. Not exactly where you want to be when you're facing down an Insectile Aberration and a Nimble Mongoose, of which he only has one as well. So it's going to be Seth's turn. He's going to untap, and with no mana sources on the field, he's going to be able to add a mana-producing land to the board before Matthew does here. And it's going to be a Scalding Tarn. He's going to be able to fetch that before Stifle would be able to deal with it.
Sure.
If he wants to, which he's going to right now. So Rug Delver, we have a Rug Delver mirror match here. The winner of this match is likely going to be able to draw in to the top 8.
It is rather likely that's what will occur.
Rug Delver is a deck that has sort of fell off the radar in recent months. Not off the radar, but off in popularity.
It hasn't done as well as it normally does. Chris Piccolo, don't want to ignore him, but he's done very well with the deck. Actually, again, had an 18-match win streak in the Swiss of our opens, making multiple top 8s. But that being said, I feel like it has fallen off a little bit. We've seen Storm do very, very well of late. We know that Goblins won in Minneapolis as well. Death and Taxes in the Invitational by the Euros.
Not to mention, of course, Blue, White, Red Control with Rest in Peace in the main deck. Very difficult to deal with.
So there's been a diversification of decks in the format, which is obviously healthy. Rug Delver is this kind of deck that a lot of people don't like losing to or playing against. So as a result, it's done a little bit. I don't want to say it's done worse. It just hasn't been as prevalent.
So anyway, Seth Manfield is going to wait for a moment. Looks like he's pondering his decision. We're going to cut back to the booth here as they have paused the match to address the deck list error.
What deck list error? All right, so there's a deck list error.
There is a deck list error.
This doesn't happen very much. So it's kind of funny. This. You know what this is?
Yeah.
This is awkward.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
This is awkward right now.
This happens every once in a while in the Open Series where we discover the deck list error that wasn't caught by the judges in their first run through the decks. They can't check every deck as it comes in to compare it against the deck that's going to be played in the tournament.
That's correct.
And so Wild Mongrel is a legacy legal card.
It's very legal.
It is conceivable that card would have been in Seth's deck. It is a castable Magic card.
Also true.
And so it was not caught immediately, and we caught it on camera.
Yeah, we caught it. And we're not going to ignore that sort of thing.
Of course.
Obviously, if there's a deck list error, then that needs to be fixed, and so they're going to get to fixing it. That's exactly what's going to happen. So it's it's a bad time for that to happen to Seth. He's 6-1.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is going to result in a game loss. I'm almost
Yes.
positive. I mean, I'm no judge, obviously, but I've made this error before. I've made a deck list error, and oftentimes it does result in a game loss. So
Now, the good news for Seth, though, is he will be down again.
Yeah.
But the good news is he will be on the play for game 2.
Yes.
And among mirror matches that are skill-intensive rather than luck-intensive,
Yes.
Rug Delver is one of the matchups that is the most skill-intensive that I can think of in the format.
I certainly agree. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of gamesmanship on when to wasteland because the opponents kind of stifle in their deck, when to fight over specific spells. There's dazes, there's forcibles, there's pierces, there's flusterstorms. Those cards are in those decks in varying numbers. So as a result, playing around a lot of those different cards is very difficult. Then there's obviously the Tarmogoyf fight and the Tarmogoyf war of when to attack with the Tarmogoyf, when to block with the Tarmogoyf because they run into each other. I have a bolt, you don't. Your Tarmogoyf dies.
Right.
All that stuff. So it's very, very intricate. Watching two very good players play it is always a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to see that soon.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course, much of the deck is very similar between the two players, but often there will be a 1 or 2 card slight difference between the lists.
Yeah.
And as we see in Matthew's list, he does have the 1 Forked Bolt.
Yep.
I don't think that Seth did.
Seth did not have a fourth gold.
And, that is a card that is much better in a format that has things like Baleful Strix or Noble Hierarch especially.
Yeah.
Things like that you want to be able to pick off early. But it's also good in Tarmogoyf battles.
Yep.
When they would normally bounce off of each other, a Forked Bolt can often finish them off.
Yeah, finish them off, deal 1 to the person, deal 1 to the opponent as well. That fourth bolt spot rotates quite a bit. Sometimes it's fork bolt, sometimes it is a chain lightning.
Yep.
As well.
It's
Sometimes not even
occasionally
there.
Dismember to be able to take care of things like Gristlebrand. That a resolved Gristlebrand is almost impossible for most Rug Delver decks to deal
Absolutely.
with. So 2-for-1ing yourself with Dismember into Lightning Bolt, for example, to take care of the 7/7 Lifelinker is a fine option.
Yeah, I mean, if it can happen, it's rare that it'll occur, but if things line up that way, also Dismember does a nice job of taking care of a Tarmogoyf a high percentage of the time, and then if cards that are running around like Tombstalker or what have you, Dismember does that. So as you said, sometimes that's a one-of. Sometimes you'll see some of those in the sideboard too.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the Rug Mirror is definitely an interesting matchup. It's super back and forth, but as you said, it is really, really skill intensive because it's not like this. It's oftentimes not this matchup where it's like they play a Delver and then like they wasteland you, and then you're just like, I can't do anything. You win. That's pretty rare.
The Rug Delver deck is designed to get free wins with Wasteland your 1 land, Stifle, Daze, everything you play from then on out, and just completely tempo you out of the game. But two decks that are designed to do that often can't do that to each other.
Yeah.
It's very rare to see one Delver deck get completely out-tempoed for the extent of a game.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty rare. I mean, this is one matchup where actually, Daze is super important in this matchup.
Yeah.
There are times where Daze is really good, and if you're a very savvy Legacy player, you can make it so that the Dazes that deck and other decks have are actually pretty poor. But in this matchup, you really are at the mercy of Daze.
Yes.
Because again, you're playing an 18-land deck, and both players have 4 wastelands. So if you do get Daze, you're kind of at the mercy of being Dazed. There's nothing that will really happen. You just kind of try to run your worst spell into Daze.
Sure.
I guess but it's all situation dependent too, because then you could be playing a Lightning Bolt and trying to bait them into dazing it, so that they're behind a land drop.
Right.
Their Daze is gone, then you can resolve a Tarmogoyf. So there's a whole game inside the game of just playing and dealing with Daze.
Yes.
So that's a thing as well.
And after sideboard, it only gets more skill intensive as far as I'm concerned because of Submerge.
Yeah.
Now, Submerge is a card that's been around for a long time in many different decks, but has found a home as a 4-of in the sideboard of Rug Delver.
Yep.
And is a staple of the Rug Delver mirror match, and playing around Submerge, particularly in interactions with fetch lands, is a very important thing to be able to understand about a Rug Delver mirror.
Agreed. Submerge, just as you said, with fetch lands, you crack a fetch land, I submerge your guy. In response to you cracking the fetch land, do you still want to search for a land, or do you care about that Tarmogoyf? There's that aspect of it. We've seen some Rug Delver decks, and even though neither of these lists have it, play Thought Scour as well, so they can submerge and then Thought Scour your threat away. Stuff like that. Submerge is super skill intensive, and as you said, both players are going to have it. You see this deck list here from Matthew Wiese, he's got 4 in his sideboard. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if Seth has 4 of them as well. It's just another card where this happens, as we're being told right now. Players are back. The judge is going to come back with Seth's deck list. Seth is being given a game loss for game 1. No surprise there. If you have a deck reg error, certainly of that magnitude, you're going to be given a game loss. So Seth will take that. He'll have the option to play or draw first, and then both players will get to sideboard as well, coming into game number 2. So we will be cutting back to the match in just a little bit for you guys. See, we made that less awkward.
I think we tried.
Yeah.
I think we did our
I
best.
think we did okay. Yeah.
I'm naturally awkward.
I understand.
so
I understand. Not me.
I may not have done my best.
Not
but-
me.
No, not you.
I'm good. I make this look
smooth.
good.
Yeah. Of
So,
course.
the bad thing here is that I really want to see Wild Mongrel, like
Yeah,
really bad.
me too.
Actually.
I was actually somewhat hopeful trying to figure out situations like if you get mana flooded, you can turn it into a 4/4 to be able to like knock off Mongoose and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but was not to be.
Seth in the deck list errors this weekend, really impressive. Did you hear the story about yesterday in Seth in the deck list error?
I think I did.
Yeah, so yesterday, Seth also had a deck reg error in which he registered 2 Remove Souls
Instead of
Essence Scatter. So he had to not play those because Remove Soul is not standard legal, and he had to play 2 lands instead. So his blue-white deck list, and you guys can check that out on the website of the coverage of the top 8 list, had 28 lands instead of 26. And this was round 1. He got a game 1, round 1 game loss, and then lost the match. So he started off 0-1, and then didn't lose anymore until the top 8.
Yeah.
So
it's possible that it's just better to play with 28 lands. Just hit all your land drops.
that is a theory. Makes
It
your
is.
Revelations really good.
It is.
It also makes it that your Revelations draw a lot of land.
That is also true.
Yeah.
That's so that your next revelation can draw even more lands.
Yes, absolutely.
So looking at the sideboard for Matthew Wiese here, he's got the Force of Merge. He's got Vendilion Click, which is a card that's typically for combo matchups. Do you think that he brings it in the Rugdelver Mirror match as a flash threat?
I actually kind of like it as a flash shot in this matchup. Being a 3-1, get in the air, there's the off chance that you can trade with an Inside Tile Aberration. Information is super important in this matchup as well. So, if you get a good look at your opponent's hand, maybe put a Tarmogoyf to the bottom, and know what to play around, I actually like that quite a bit.
Now, other cards that he has access to include Life from the Loam. Oftentimes we see Rugdelver Mirror matches come down to a Life from the Loam battle to see who can get off their Life from the Loam with the Wasteland the quickest to be able to try and lock someone out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that happens there, I think that both players will sideboard in. Definitely Weiss will sideboard it in because you can get him in the Wasteland lock, or you can get back the fetch lands and be able to make sure that you do hit your land drops. So I actually like that as a card in this matchup. It's not like, I don't ever feel like it's a card that's going to win the game, but it provides this inevitable engine that can threaten to win the game, and as a result, it forces the player who does not have Life from the Loam to play differently.
Yes.
They have to worry about that card, or they don't have to worry about it otherwise. But again, it's not a card that you would load up on. You're not going to play 4 Life from the Loam. It's just a nice 1 Miser's copy, and if you draw it, then you get to play the game a little bit differently.
And in Rugdelver, you have so many cantrips and so many ways to look through your deck.
Yeah.
The Singleton sideboard plan is actually very popular.
Yes.
There are a couple other options. Of course, Pyroblast will almost certainly be coming in here to be able to win counterspell fights. There are a couple other options that I'm curious if they are options or if they are strictly for other matchups. The first one is Sulfur Elemental, which is a split-second threat.
Okay.
Just being an uncounterable threat, is that good enough to warrant its inclusion, or is that not for this matchup?
I don't think it's good enough to warrant its inclusion. It being an uncounterable threat, it still is. It's not going to battle well with any of the creatures. I guess, you can trade with a Noble Mongoose, and Insect Aberration can block it down, put it on the defensive, and Tarmogoyf's always going to beat it in fights. So it being uncounterable is nice, but I don't think that's worth a card. I'd rather have Vendilion.
Now, the last one I have seen people bring in, and I'm still not sure if it's correct or not. I guess it depends on what your strategy is, and that's Surgical Extraction.
I hate it.
You don't like bringing in Surgical Extraction in the Rugdelver Mirror?
No,
I've seen it brought in and used to good effect on occasion, and then not used to good effect on occasion.
Yeah, to me, it's, you just have to get a little bit lucky with it, I feel like. Cards like that are cards I feel like people just sideboard in way too often. A card like Extirpate, a card like Thought Hemorrhage or Slaughter Games. These cards that just don't really have a great impact, but people think that they're going to have a large impact. I just don't really like them very much. Seth's going to take a mulligan down to 6 here.
Yeah, I can completely understand that, especially now that this deck doesn't use Snapcaster Mage anymore. Seth has 1 copy of Snapcaster Mage, but he's probably not gonna bring in his Singleton Surgical Extraction.
Yeah.
But the value of the free spells is somewhat lessened by the absence of Snapcaster Mage from the Rugdelver decks. Of course, when these decks were first introduced, I believe David Thomas was the first one about 2 years ago to really play a deck that was in its current form a Rugdelver deck.
Sure.
That was back when it had a copy of Temporal Spring, for example.
Oh, sure,
in the deck.
That one's old school.
That's a very old school deck. And then the next week, Jonathan Job won with a very similar deck at the very next Open Series. And so that's when the Rugdelver deck started taking over the Open Series and led to about a year where Rug Delver was enemy number 1.
Yep.
Since then, the deck has definitely been thinned down. The mana costs are way less than they used to be. You would never even dream of seeing a Snapcaster Mage in a deck with 18 lands these days.
No, I mean, not at all.
At least as a 4-of,
Yes.
because Snapcaster Mage may say 2 casting cost, but it never costs 2 unless you're using it as the Ambush Viper mode of just flashing it in, or you have Gataxi.
Yeah, and that's really the only way. Normally it's normally a 3 mana spell. In a deck like this, it's going to be a 3 mana spell a very heavy amount of the time. Manfield does have 1 Snapcaster Mage in his main deck to go along with 4 Delvers, 4 Tarmogoyfs, and 4 Nimble Mongoose.
Yes. They are quite nimble, those Mongoose.
He's going to start off with a Delver Secrets fetching and going to go get a Tropical Island, it looks like.
Yep. So we have the same start, albeit down a card for this game for Seth Manfield.
Down a card, down a game.
That's right.
Got some work to do.
Well, you got a chip in a chair, you got a chance.
That's true. I've heard that somewhere. Do you like Norman, Chad? Do you like him?
Like Norman, Chad?
Yeah.
I haven't met him. Do I like him as a commentator?
Sure.
I think he's fine. As a commentator myself, I hesitate to comment on other commentators.
I'm trying to reel you in.
As we see Gataxian Probe, that's the F&M promo, I believe, Gataxian Probe, revealing 2 volcanic islands, Brainstorm Ponder. Matthew Wiese, leaning way back in his chair, not really able to see what he's got, as we receive the news that Jonathan Suarez has defeated Chris Pikula this round.
That means Pikula's not going to make top 8 for once, which is actually a shock to the system.
Absolutely.
Those 2 guys were both X and 1. Suarez playing Mono Red Imperial Painter, so for you Grindstone fans out there.
It's a very good matchup. The Rug Delver matchup is very good for the Mono Red Painter list.
So
with main deck Pyroblast.
Yeah.
Always a good option.
Yes. So for you Imperial Painter fans out there, well, there's a decent chance we'll be seeing that in the elimination rounds, assuming that Suarez can draw in.
Yep.
For Chris Pikula, frowny face.
Yeah, he's going to have to settle for not but a chance at a top 16 finish as we continue back here with Seth Manfield, who uses Brainstorm on his upkeep to try to stack his library in such a way as to turn that Delver into an Insectile Aberration. And indeed he does. He shows just the Ponder that Matthew already knew about, thanks to the Gataxian Probe, to not give any more information to his opponent.
We'll start by attacking.
Yep. The 3-2 enters the red zone. Matthew falls to 15. Looks like Seth found a Wasteland among other cards.
Yep. Same situation. Actual same situation as game 1.
Yep.
Oddly enough.
And that is going to take care of the Volcanic Island.
It's nice when you can Wasteland on the initiative too. It's going to turn over a Spell Pierce. It's really nice that you can Wasteland when you're on the play versus having to Wasteland on the draw when mana's open because of Stifle and stuff like that. It's just much better.
Absolutely. So Matthew has decided to enter the red zone himself. He has dropped Seth to 16, Scalding Tarn, going to drop Matthew down to 14, finding another land, and most likely finding, well, is it another threat or is it a burn spell?
Yeah, it could be another threat, could be a burn spell, could be some manipulation as well. He's going to try a bolt.
Yep, Lightning Bolt is actually going to succeed at taking out the Insectile Aberration on the opposing side of the board. And now, all of a sudden, Matthew's the one in the driver's seat, as Seth draws his second Volcanic Island that we assume was put back off of the Brainstorm. Tarmogoyf is going to be the play from Seth.
See if there's a Daze or a Force of Will here. Both will be pretty backbreaking. This is what I'm talking about with Daze too in this matchup, where you don't have a choice, you just have to cast your Tarmogoyf, so there is a Daze. So Seth could Daze back,
right?
You know?
But he chooses not to, even if he had one, assuming he had one. And now it looks like Matthew is going to be able to be the one who's playing the Delver-like tempo plan, whereas Seth has to play from behind.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for Seth, he's the one that has lands in play. Can find a Lightning Bolt to take care of Insectile Aberration, stuff like that. So, the game is far from over. We know that he has not cast the Ponder yet either, I do not believe.
Correct. Seth still has Ponder to be able to dig for more answers like Lightning Bolt. Or Vandalion Click, which we assume has been brought in as well. He does find a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, it looks like his Bolt in his hand.
Third land.
And he knows that Matthew has Spell Pierce in his hand, so You know, I think that if you're Seth, you want to do this on his upkeep. I don't think you want to do it on your turn.
I agree. It looks like Seth also has a Stifle.
And the reason you don't want to do it on your turn is like because if you're gonna have like a battle over this, like he could bolt now, and then the opponent goes like Spell Pierce and then daze it.
Yeah.
I'd rather all that take place on my opponent's turn, I think.
So Seth's deciding to ponder instead. Can afford to fall to 10 if he so chooses. He's going to dig a little deeper and see what his game plan over the next couple turns is going to be.
It looks like a
What is that? That's a Pyroblast.
Yeah, Pyroblast or Elemental Blast, one of the two. He has 3 of those in his sideboard. Wouldn't be surprised to see all 3 in here after sideboard.
Yep. Of course, a potent answer to Insectile Aberration in this case, but also able to counter pretty much anything of relevance other than a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Or a Nimble Mongoose, but at a certain point in the Rug Delver mirror match, Nimble Mongoose gets outclassed.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Especially when players can't fill up their graveyard as quickly and as reliably as they usually are in the Rug Delver matchup. The thing about Rug Delver that I always find fascinating is that you can, if you sit back and don't do anything, their cards are so reactive that neither can they a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if they lead off with a Delver of Secrets that flips into an Insectile Aberration, you're forcing your hand.
Yeah.
But if they don't have one of those early plays, and you're able to, for example, Swords to Plowshares their Tarmogoyf on turn 2 or something like that, then the game can just go on forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very important that they start with a 1-drop and put some pressure on you, be it Mongoose or Delver of Secrets. Ideally, it's Delver, just because it's a bigger threat and doesn't require very much assembly. So, you know, whenever an opponent starts off with a turn 1 Delver of Secrets in this deck, you're immediately just under the gun, and you just want to try to get that thing off the board or get yourself in a board position where it just doesn't matter very much.
The Innistrad Human Wizard enters the red zone, threatening 3 more damage at Seth Manfield. Seth's deciding how he wants to proceed here.
And now is a bad time to bolt, I think, because, again, you know he has Spell Pierce, because he revealed it.
Looks like he wants Matthew to use the Spell Pierce.
I guess he wants to trade Spell Pierce 1-for-1 for Bolt and then take 3 points of damage. I mean, if that's what he wants to do, then that's fine.
Yeah, he's forcing Matthew to use his mana on his turn. The Mongoose, not what Seth wanted to see. He was hoping to choke Matthew on mana there.
Yeah.
And it just did not work out. He is, however, going to be able to Pyroblast this Insectile Aberration, though.
I mean, I feel like he's trying to walk him. I feel like he's trying to walk Matthew into a trap. That's what it feels like to me right now. I'm not sure what the trap is, but it feels like he's trying to walk him into one.
Yeah, he's trying to lead the game down a very specific path. And I can't see exactly what's in Seth's hand. It looks like he wants to just get a Tarmogoyf on the table to match up against Matthew's Nimble Mongoose and just let the game go from there. And have, you know, where the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
See whose top of the deck is better. Although it appears like he's second-guessing himself here.
It's like a Vendilion Click.
Ah, it is a Vendilion Click. Okay, so I see the plan. I think the plan is to trade this Vendilion Click with the Nimble Mongoose.
Yep, and get a good look at his hand. I mean, again, this just gets you possibly dazed, but...
Oh, he's going to target himself.
Okay, so he's going to
get
put
rid of the
Stifle on the bottom.
which is not going to be relevant anymore. Dig himself up a new card. It's a Scalding Tarn. It's going to get him a 4th land. So he's going to have the mana advantage by far.
Yeah.
So anything along the lines of Life from the Loam or mana-intensive threats like Vendilion Click, as we see here, Modern Masters Mythic, is going to be in his advantage. He's going to be able to pretty much blank all of Matthew's Dazes and Spell Pierces for the rest of the game as well.
He's Pyroblasting now, too, because he doesn't want to... by casting Vendilion Click, it resolving, Matthew is making a loud declaration he does not have Daze, so now he can tap out for Red Elemental, or Pyroblast, excuse me, and shoot the Delver and assume that he doesn't have Daze, because I don't think that Matthew's trying to reel him in there.
Matthew still has that Mongoose, though, so if he has a burn spell to take care of the Mongoose, or to take care of the Vendilion Click, as we see him cast Brainstorm and not find a burn spell, but he does find a Tarmogoyf on the top, which will once again re-trump the creatures on the board.
I mean, Matthew's in the better position right now. Like Seth, most of Seth's resources are exhausted. You know, like top of the deck, notwithstanding, you know, he can find something there, but it looks like he's a little bit exhausted. You know, if Matthew finds like a wasteland to take care of that tropical island, that's a disaster as well, because then he's cut off a green mana, you know, assuming he doesn't have another land. And, you know, Matthew is the one resolving a brainstorm here, and there's a fetch land among that brainstorm, excuse me. So I feel like he's in a much better position right now. He's also hoping Seth's also hoping that Matthew doesn't brainstorm into a burn spell, as you mentioned, to take care of Vendilion Clique and just get to keep attacking.
Matthew now is up to the requisite 7. He actually has 8 in his graveyard now, so that Nimble Mongoose is a 3/3. And Seth is only at 9, so that represents a 3-turn clock. Matthew falls to 12 to use his fetch land and then cast Tarmogoyf, the second Modern Masters mythic of the game.
He's going to search out a land and then cast a Tarmogoyf really quick here. Here's a tropical island. And that's going to resolve.
Many islands of various types in play for Matthew now, and that Tarmogoyf is going to come down. And yeah, and Seth doesn't have a good answer. Like, the only good answer that Rug Delver really has to a resolved Tarmogoyf is your own Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
You can submerge it to delay it for a turn or two, I guess, make you skip your draw step, but eventually you're actually going to have to address the 4/5 on its own terms. Ponder is a good place to start for Seth. He finds a cantrip on the top of his deck and is able to add more cards to his graveyard for potential Nimble Mongoose in the future. Can't really see what he chose there. He's going to decide to shuffle it away.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it matters at all. It looks like he's just going to shuffle these cards away.
As we see, the Tarmogoyf is a 4/5 currently. I think that this particular game, Seth didn't have the options available to him that you usually have in a Rug Delver mirror match. Usually you can fight on any number of 5 or 6 different axes. Seth really had about 2 that he could fight on, and they both really depended on that Insectile Aberration that he played on turn 1 staying in play.
Yeah.
He had no real way to come back.
Yeah, I mean, not a very decision-laden game here for Seth. You know, and we haven't really seen him do a ton of cantripping this game, you know, not trying to ignore that Ponder, but he just hasn't really done a lot this game, whereas I feel like, again, Matthew's on the driver's seat here because he's starting off by brainstorming, pondering, and brainstorming, and getting deeper in his deck, and then sacking a fetch lane. You see he's going to find another Ponder here. He's the one doing a lot more manipulation. He's finding the better cards. He's the one with the Tarmogoyf and a 3/3 Nimble Mongoose as well that has Shroud right now, so I feel like he's really in the driver's seat this game.
Matthew also found a wasteland off of that brainstorm, which is going to be able to cut Seth off of green mana, which is going to really hamper any of his potential top decks.
Yeah.
As you see Matthew there on the right, pondering his decision. I guess brainstorming his decision.
What have you.
What have you. He's going to resolve and enter the red zone. So, Seth's plan was to trade off with the Nimble Mongoose, and that came to fruition. But
Matthew's happy with that.
yeah, Matthew's happy with that at this point because that means that his Tarmogoyf is the only remaining animal on the board. So I think that what he's likely going to do is try and keep Seth off of any number of options that he can, casting another Tarmogoyf. Wow.
Yeah.
So, really rough shape for Seth.
That's it.
And that's the end.
2 Tarmogoyfs is just too much. Like, those things are both 4/5s. Those things are absolutely huge. And so Matthew Wiese is going to win 2-0 over Seth Manfield. Looks like both players were playing for top 8 here. Game loss is obviously a backbreaker, but that game, to me, wasn't even very close.
Yeah, agreed.